So hi guys, this is my first video on YouTube. So in this video, we are going to learn about the art and culture, and in this topic, we are going to learn about the topic which is art and architecture in the Mughal period. So before we begin, I would like to tell you that if you want the notes of this video, just head to the Diplomatic Indian blog. Here you will find the notes of this video and you can refer the notes for further revision as well as study. So without further ado, let's get started. So in the art and architecture in Mughal period, we find that Babur and Humayun both did not live long enough to contribute heavily or to contribute anything for that matter to the art and architecture in the Mughal period. So guys, uh, Babur only built a few mosques which were in Panipat and in Rohilkhand. So you will find that I have provided a map here which talks about various plateaus in the Indian peninsular region. We find Malwa Plateau, we find Deccan Plateau, we also find Bundelkhand Plateau. But you may be thinking that what is the importance of this? But in 2016, UPSC asked a question which is related to this topic. So in this we find UPSC has asked consider the following pairs and they had provided us with some famous places as well as some regions which they are associated with. So they had provided Bodh Gaya, Bagelkhand, Khajuraho, Bundelkhand, and they had provided us with four options. So let's try to find out what is the solution of this question. So when we look at the map, we find that Maharashtra totally lies in the Maharashtra plateau. So in this, if we rule out Nashik as Malwa Plateau, we can clearly see in the map that Malwa Plateau is located near Gujarat, MP, Rajasthan border. But here Nashik is associated with Malwa. So this option is totally wrong. So we can eliminate this option. The second option is Shirdi. We find that if you have some knowledge about the geography of Maharashtra, you can understand that in Maharashtra, Vidarbha is the region which is closer to MP border and which is in the northern part of Maharashtra, whereas uh, Shirdi is present in Shirdi is present in Nagar, which is not part of Vidarbha. So we can also rule out this option. So we can eliminate the option 3. We can eliminate option 4. So looking at the various options us to provided to us by UPSC, we can eliminate option B, we can eliminate option D, and also we can eliminate option A. So with the help of method of elimination, we can clearly see that the correct option is C, 2 and 5 only. So second, we will look at what was the contribution of Humayun for the in the art and architecture of Mughal period. So Humayun also laid the foundation of the city called Deenpana. But soon after that, Humayun died. He also did not live long enough to contribute anything to the art and architecture. Later on, after his death, his wife Bega Begum, she started the construction of Humayun's tomb. In the image, you can see that Humayun's tomb is built using white marble as well as red sandstone. And we can see that there are four gardens on four sides of the tomb. This type of architecture, having four gardens on all the four sides of a particular monument, is known as Char Bagh style. So you can see here that Humayun's tomb is also it can be also called as a magnificent building of Mughal school. This building is the epitome of beauty and elegance. It has used white marble as well as red sandstone and also has four gardens around the building, which I have already mentioned is called Char Bagh style. Humayun Nama. Humayun Nama is the biography of Humayun, which was written by his sister Gulbadan Begum. So we move on to Akbar. Akbar heavily contributed to the development of art and architecture in the Mughal period. He was one of the few rulers who have contributed not only in the Mughal architecture as but he not even incorporated the elements of Mughal architecture which includes arc and dome, but he also utilized the arcuate style of architecture which was prevalent in the ancient India. So we find that he introduced the two-door arch, which is four-centered arch, and he heavily used red sandstone. He also widely used the four gardens surrounding the fort, famously called Charbagh style. And one of the city which he laid foundation for Fatehpur Sikri. In Fatehpur Sikri, we find various monuments and architecture which are relevant for us as per UPSC syllabus. So the first one is the Buland Darwaza. Buland Darwaza is made with red sandstone and it was made or built to commemorate Akbar's victory over Gujarat. It is also known as the largest gateway of the world. Akbar also built Salim Chisti's tomb in this Fatehpur Sikri. It is built in white marble and it has extensive jali work which is present in this Salim Chisti's tomb. Salim Chisti Salim Chisti had a great relevance to Akbar because it is said that due to the blessings of Salim Chisti, Salim, whom we know as Jahangir, was born. That's why Akbar even paid his respects to Salim Chisti by building a tomb in his respect. It Salim Chisti's tomb also uses arabesque patterns. So arabesque patterns are nothing but a pattern in which we find there is a somewhat vegetal vegetal type of a design, which I will show you. It looks like this. So there is a flower here, there is another flower here, there is another flower here. The pattern which looks like this, in which a stem is present and flowers or other vegetal patterns are able to be drawn. We say that this pattern is called arabesque pattern. Moving forward, in this Fatehpur Sikri complex, we find Panch Mahal, Birbal's palace, Jodhabai's palace. As the name suggests, Panch Mahal, it is a five-story building, and in Jodhabai's palace, we find Akbar incorporated Trabeate element of Hindu architecture, which included lintel as well as arch. So we know that lintel type of architecture was prevalent in ancient India, and on the other hand, arch type of architecture which is prevalent in the medieval India. So as I already mentioned, Akbar tried to incorporate both these elements while building his monuments and various palaces or various structures in his reign. Akbar also introduced the concept of hanging balcony in this Jodhabai's palace. One of the most important structures in the Fatehpur Sikri complex is Ibadat Khana. So UPSC also had asked a previous year question which stated that what was the reason or why Ibadat Khana was used. So the answer is that Akbar used Ibadat Khana to meet leaders of different religions, and he used to hold discussions here regarding various matters which were concerning various religions. This shows that Akbar was a very tolerant leader. He also initiated the construction of Red Fort of Agra, which was later on completed by Shah Jahan. He built Diwan-e-Am and Diwan-e-Khas. In Diwan-e-Am, he used to listen to the grievances of the people or his subjects, and in Diwan-e-Khas, he used to meet with the ministers. He started the theology of Tawhid-e-Ilahi. Many people mistake this theology as Deen-e-Ilahi, but Tawhid-e-Ilahi is the name of the theology, whereas the followers were called Deen-e-Ilahi. This theology was a very liberal theology, but many people did not follow it. Only 15 to 20 people in Akbar's reign followed this theology, and later on its prominence, its significance decreased. Akbar also gave patronage to temples. One example of this temple is Govind Dev temple in Vrindavan. This also again signifies how Akbar was a tolerant leader, and not only did he contribute to the construction of the art and architecture in Mughal style or Indo-Islamic style, but he also gave patronage to the temples. So next we move on to Jahangir. So Jahangir, he himself was a very brilliant painter, and that's why we find in his reign there was more focus on paintings rather than building more monuments and structures. He built Akbar's tomb in Sikandra. He even built his own tomb even before he died in Lahore. His wife Noor Jahan contributed heavily to the art and architecture during his reign. Jahangir, on the other hand, focused on the paintings. So she built Shalimar Garden in Kashmir. She even renovated Dal Lake. And one of the most important structures in uh, Jahangir's reign was the tomb of Ismaduddaulah. It is one of the finest example of Paitra Durat work. It is totally built in white marble. So we move on to Shah Jahan. We can say that the art and architecture in the Mughal period reached its climax during Shah Jahan's reign, and later on during Aurangzeb's reign, this art and architecture, its development, it totally declined. Since Aurangzeb was a very conservative person, and he did not believe that much in the development of beautiful buildings and scenic architecture. That's why we find that after and during Aurangzeb's reign, the art and architecture's development declined, and after that we find no no significant monuments and structures were built. So Shah Jahan, in Shah Jahan's reign, we find the Indo-Islamic architecture reached its climax. He used all the prominent features which were present in the Indo-Islamic architecture, which include Paitra Dura work, foresighting, geometrical pattern. He used all of these. He built many architectures which are even relevant today. For example, Taj Mahal. He built it in memory of Arzuman Banu Begum, and he again built Red Fort. He built Jama Masjid. He again built a Shalimar Park, but this one was in Lahore. Moving forward, we have Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb, as I have already mentioned, during his reign, Mughal architecture declined. One of the most prominent architecture we find in Aurangzeb's reign is Bibi Ka Maqbara, which is in Aurangabad in Maharashtra. Many historians and many people have called it a poor imitation of Taj Mahal. So this was all about the art and architecture during the Mughal period. So guys, if you want the notes of this video, I will leave the link to my blog in the description box below. You can go ahead and check out the notes and keep on revising these notes, because revision only will help you retain all this factual information. And I will see you again in next video. So thank you.